So I think what makes a city smart is defining what the city's goals are in coordination with all the people that have a stake in the city. So smart isn't just necessarily about technology, it's also about, and it's mostly really about people and how people live in the city, what value they get out of it, how they associate with it, and how the city can grow and meet their needs. And so I think it's really key when you're defining smart city technologies that you understand your city first. And so that really is the fundamental goal. So again, I think it's important to really recognize that smart city initiatives is not necessarily a new thing. I think it's a new term that's come about that has been marketed fairly well, and people have associated sort of the next generation of sort of technology spend associated with that phrase. But really, I mean, if you look at the way the cities have evolved, you've really evolved from these different agencies delivering different services. And then when technology came along, you started using technology to either manage your data or deliver that service better to your residents, right? And now we're at that stage where now we're looking at the proliferation of technology across, where we can look at data across our entire environment and help the city be better. So for us in DC, a smart DC is not the most technologically advanced DC. A smart DC is a city that's sustainable, a city that's resilient, a city that's equitable, right? And that has quality of life. So if you think of those goals, none of those can be achieved, I think, in an efficient way without technology. So we're sort of the bedrock of that, I think. And so we've recognized that. And so that's been our approach with it. And so what we've done in DC is we set up a Smarter DC Tiger team. We've pulled from different agencies. We started off small, even with a group of agencies, and we've been adding more and more. But the whole goal is that each of us has a unique perspective and expertise on the operational challenges of the city. So what is our vision and view of what we want to be and where we think we need to go? And then the goal is now we're starting to bring in Metro Lab, right? So how do the universities plug into this? How do the nonprofits plug in? How do we now engage stakeholders? If there are businesses in the city that care about it, how do we engage them and see what their view is? And then how do we get the residents involved? So the goal is this group eventually has that representation to make these decisions. And then we pick and prioritize the products and projects that we care about. So I think we will be a much more resilient city, a sustainable city, and a very equitable city at the end of this. And I cannot reinforce that enough. I think all of our investments and projects are based on that. And there's no one project. So it's not that, are we looking at, making our streetlights intelligent? Absolutely. But that's just one aspect of it, right? But what else can I use that one asset for? Can I now use that asset to provide Wi-Fi coverage? And can I connect people that are not connected, right? Can I use that same asset again and both those capabilities to now put sensors? So if I want to look at movement analytics, if I want to look at traffic congestions and I want to make some predictive analytics, can I potentially do that, right? So it's really looking at each asset that the city has and taking it out of the context of it only serves a primary purpose to see how value can be delivered across. But the goal again there isn't that, oh, I have this data set, or now I have this information, or I have this great dashboard. The goal is from a resident's perspective, when I am going from point A to B, I have multiple options to get there. I have multiple ways of being informed. When I'm looking from a resident's perspective of, I need to apply for a job, I don't just have to go to a library, I can at least connect to the Wi-Fi or step out into my balcony and I know DC Wi-Fi is there and I can now connect and do what I need to do. So it's getting those kind of opportunities to people so that their lives get transformed in the process, and that's really the goal. So I think again it ties back to what is it that you're trying to achieve as a city, right? And knowing your city. So I cannot reinforce enough that for me to successfully ask for something, I actually need to know what the city is. When I say what the city is, both the challenges from an infrastructure perspective, processes, and systems, right? So when you know all of that, you understand better what the impact is. So when if I come to you and say, I need X thousands of dollars or X million of dollars to upgrade my infrastructure, that means nothing to you. But if I can say that by improving this infrastructure, here's the connectivity I can provide in these coverage, here are 20,000 residents that can now get on, Or here's how my sensorizing the entire water system will help them deliver better service, whatever that is. But if I tie it to actual real world impact, I think you will almost always get your budget. Now, if there are really truly dire pressing needs, you may not, but I'm yet to see, an environment where if you build a compelling case that you won't get funded for it. I don't look at those as challenges. I strongly believe that when you approach smart cities, and I've talked to a bunch of people, and everyone's favorite bad word is silos. I actually don't think silos are a bad thing. Silos create areas of expertise. That's actually a good thing to have. What you need is, in addition to those silos, you need a horizontal, effort where teams know about what everyone's working on. Our transportation team is really good at what they do because they know how to make these roads work, they know how to make those lights run. That's their expertise. We need that. But I need their expert to sit with me as I'm making technology decisions that I understand and know well. And I think that's really the key, is you need that horizontal integration across and that collaborative forum where people can plug in and then go back to their teams and we make decisions accordingly. So I'm very excited about that. So DC and San Francisco are sort of co-shepherding this effort, but I'll tell you, really the credit goes to the 9 cities that have come on board and to the mayors that have come on board and said, we are going to be collaborative, we're going to work together. I think it's a big kudos to them because each of these mayors have seen beyond, right? Typically when you're in a city, you're making these investments or decisions, you tend to go at it yourself. If I'm looking at cybersecurity, if I'm looking at IoT, if I'm looking at building a framework or a strategy for deployment of connectivity, right? It's resources I have, it's potentially some city partners, and then we're trying to get it done. But to take that and say, let's now scale it at a level where we bring in cities that care about this, right? And let's now at the working levels put our people together. Let's sort of prioritize our projects. And if DC has a higher priority for one project, and San Francisco has a different priority, and Chicago has a different priority, and New York has a different priority, well, if we get our working people collaborating, can you now share the information with me where as soon as I get my project done, I can share that with you. You can then share it with me, but collectively in the 2-year term, now we've hit 4 things off our plate versus the one we were focused on, right? The value of that, if we truly plan it well, is great. And then the other aspect we wanted to be is we really need to be a collaborative voice. One, on how we engage with vendors in terms of standards that we need to set, but 2, really in how we engage with the federal government. Because I think this is a very powerful organization, right? If you think about the cities coming together, we're now saying, here's what we need. And I think having the federal government support cities and drive efforts like this is going to be crucial. Because what a great thing when you can have the federal government working closely with us and saying, well, here's how we can fund initiatives. If there are pilots we want to do, instead of a challenge that goes out to one city, right? Now if you can get a consortium of cities and now they're all building out a challenge that's going to be rolled out across, you're going to have economies of scale, which is beautiful. And that's really, to me, smart cities is great, right? Again, you have city boundaries. And then you say, okay, great, we'll get beyond that, and you have state boundaries. So really, as a nation, we need to be a smart nation. And I think that is going to be key. And that's where I'm really looking to working with different folks in the federal government and this organization to really push that. And that's really what we want. We want to collectively collaborate and really build on things.